Fellas, we need to have a serious talk. Lightfall's arrival overhauled so many core parts of Destiny that the last month has had the community scrambling to figure out the new meta. Builds, weapons, exotics, farms, you name it. Through all of those changes though, something incredible, almost unpredictable occurred. The greatest scholars of the Ishtar Collective, the Vex and all the simulations could never foresee what I'm about to tell you. Leviathan's breath is meta. Now listen, I know, I'm pretty sure there's a bot out there where I literally said there is no way in hell Leviathan's breath will ever be the meta.
We shall use Leviathan's breath. I don't think it's gonna be good, but everyone thinks that it is, so I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
And here we are. I've made fun of this heavy bow long enough, but believe me, this season, Leviathan's breath has humbled me. Now, there's three main reasons why this weapon pulled a dark horse comeback in Season 20 Sandbox. Number one, catalyst performance and ammo economy. Now, these aren't necessarily new to Lightfall, but they're an important part of understanding how to use this bow at its best. Number two, seasonal surges and perks benefited greatly. Now, sure, these things may go away after Season 20, but you can milk them for now and look for similar buffs in future seasons and updates. And then number three, damage and DPS outclass almost every competing heavy weapon. This thing's long series of buffs over the years have now put it above other heavies of all archetypes in terms of raw damage. Now I'm gonna break down these 3 points with testing as well as real world use cases to convince everybody watching this video, which includes you, to finally pull out that Leviathan's breath and give this baby a go. So let's dive in. Now let's open up with performance and the catalyst. Now Destiny 2's meta is about finding the best of the best in a given sandbox, which means learning how to use each weapon, mod, and buff to your greatest advantage. Now there are some exceptions where you can just fire and forget, cough cough immortal, but Leviathan's breath isn't one of them. Here's what you need to know to use it at peak efficacy. First, the perk Leviathan Sign. This actually creates a large concussive blast that knocks combatants back when the bow is fully drawn. Now this blast more than doubles the weapon's base damage. More on that later. Second, its catalyst makes two significant changes to the weapons. One is actually ammo capacity, increasing reserves from 10 to now 15 total shots. It's a huge buff. The other is draw speed, thanks to the addition of Archer's Tempo. Now testing at 60 frames per second, the draw speed from initial pull to fully drawn averages 85 frames, which is roughly 1.4 seconds. Releasing an arrow before this time does a fraction of its full damage potential and won't trigger Leviathan's Sign. You need to be fully drawn to make this work. On top of that, 1.4 seconds is pretty long. This is where Archer's Tempo comes in, as it decreases draw time after every precision hit. That 85 frames now drops to 45 frames, just 3/4 of a second. Fellas, this catalyst nearly doubles the DPS of this weapon after landing a precision hit. And keep in mind, guys, this is not just basic Archer's Tempo. Bungie actually confirmed that Archer's Tempo and Leviathan's breath is tuned specifically for this heavy bow. What's crazier though, we can actually take this even further. Now, unfortunately, Void Loader mods have no impact on Leviathan's breath draw time. No matter how many you stack, guys, it's a wasted mod space. However, hunters can eke out a little more speed thanks to OathKeepers. At base, equipping these exotic gloves reduce draw time slightly from 85 frames to 79. And again, we're doing all of this testing at a stable 60 frames per second. Now with Archer's Tempo active, 45 frames drops to 39, which is less than half the base draw time. Granted, Titans and Warlocks can't use OathKeepers, and Leviathan's breath is still very, very good on those classes, but hunters are able to take it to that next level. Now OathKeepers also lets you hold a bow at full draw indefinitely. Leviathan's Sign does remain active indefinitely as well. Now without OathKeepers, you can hold the bow at a full draw for 3 seconds, 180 frames every time. You'll actually know that full draw is over when the green lights on the weapon start to blink. Or if you're using a controller with rumble activated, it actually will start to vibrate. Now after this, shots deal less damage. Now ammunition is also simpler to manage. At base, you can hold 10 shots at a time. With the Void Reserve mod, this can be increased to 12. Now keep in mind, even though reserve mods technically stack, that's not the case here. While equipping one reserve mod bumps you up to 12, additional mods don't add more. The only way to go higher is with the catalyst, which actually brings your shots up to 15. Keep in mind, guys, Void Reserve perks have no effect at all when the catalyst is active. So to recap, and to emphasize how crucial this catalyst actually is, the weapon gets up to 200% firing speed and 50% more ammo reserves. And if you don't have the catalyst, it's actually not that hard to get. Simply kill orange bar or higher enemies with Leviathan's breath until the catalyst randomly drops. And then afterwards, just get 100 kills with the weapon to complete this catalyst. I know this can be kind of slow, but of course you could just farm this out at Shuro Chi, which which is extremely fast considering you can rally every time. Now let's talk surges and perks. Season Defiance and Lightfall have made several sandbox shaking changes that are putting weapons like Leviathan's Breath in the spotlight. Surges are activity modifiers that increase outgoing elemental damage, and the active surges this season are Strand, Solar, and Void. This means that any activity with Void Surge modifier being active will of course increase Leviathan's base damage by 25%. And this includes lost sectors, campaign missions, nightfalls, etc. Granted, this alternates out across the game every other week with Solar Surge. Now this damage stacks with weapon surge mods on your legs. One of these surge mods increases damage by an additional 10%. 2 brings it up to 17%, and 3 brings it up to 22%. Now equipping all of these is easy thanks to the seasonal artifact perks on the Ascended Scepter. The second column perk authorized mods, Void, reduces the cost of all Void focused mods, including reloads, reserve, and yes, weapon surges. Now is equipping 3 weapon surge mods the best play? Probably not, since the 5th column perk, Void Weapon Channeling, offers some more flexibility. Channeling grants additional damage to Void weapons for each fully charged Void ability, including your grenade, melee, class ability, and super. Now this maxes out at 25% with all 4 abilities charged. Now this does not stack with activity surge modifiers, but it does stack with weapon surge mods. So yes, you could equip 3 surge mods, but you're better off equipping just 1 or 2 to avoid diminishing returns and sliding something else in their place, like maybe a scavenger mod, so you can get more ammo with every heavy brick. Now it's unlikely that you'll have all Void abilities charged all the time, but you can set the floor of this buff at 10 to 17% using weapon surge mods and hit the ceiling of 25% with weapon channeling every now and then. Now looking at other artifact perks, Volatile Flow isn't a strong contender for Leviathan's Breath, because even though it's not written on the weapon in game, precision hits with this gun intrinsically makes targets volatile. I know, mind blowing, right? Now what does work very nicely here, especially in this season, is Bricks from Beyond. This gives you a chance to drop heavy ammo for the entire fire team when killing powerful combatants with Void weapons. Now this weapon was born and raised for killing champions and bosses, so of course this is a no-brainer. Now let's talk damage. Perhaps the biggest change in Lightfall for Leviathan's Breath, and the one that made us take a closer look at it, is the 30% increase in damage to champions. 30%! That on top of surges, channeling, Archer's Tempo, Leviathan's Sigh. This bow has buffs on buffs to the power of buffs. Now we did a few different rounds of testing to nail down what kind of numbers this weapon is putting out and how it would feel to use it in in-game content. Now against Carl here, these damage values were collected using fully drawn shots against majors. So crit 53,442. With Leviathan's Sigh, 72,788. When you include the volatile explosion, this is 9,113 plus 57 for a total of 135,400 damage. That's right guys, a single precision shot with no active damage buffs does 135,400 damage. Now for comparison, we looked at other popular Void heavy weapons in the same situation. Taipan is 59,992 and jumps up to 71,989 with Focus Fury. Retrofit Escapade, 4,031 per crit, but of course this is at a rate of 900 rounds per minute. Two-Tail Fox with the Third Tail Catalyst and all rockets hitting the target does 113,334 damage. Guys, the single target damage on Leviathan's Breath is crazy. And listen, we did DPS checks just a few weeks ago, and where Leviathan's Breath stacked up was incredible. And keep in mind guys, the ammo economy on Leviathan's Breath was so good in comparison to so many of our other options. You literally had to blow your load to just break even with what Leviathan's Breath was putting out. And keep in mind guys, that single target damage that you're seeing from Leviathan's Breath is against Carl. Carl isn't even a champion, so that additional 30% doesn't even factor in yet. Now we tested all these weapons against champions in a Legend Lost sector earlier this week just to get a sense of how Leviathan feels under real world use. Now keep in mind, Void Surge was active here, so all 4 weapons benefited equally. Now this was also before Bungie reduced the health of non-boss enemies by 10% in Legend and Master activities. So as hard as you're seeing Leviathan's Breath hit here, it's actually going to be hitting even harder due to health pools being lower. Now without any additional surge mods, Leviathan's Breath kills an unstoppable champion here in about 4.4 seconds. Tape-In, Retrofit, and Two-Tail Fox all came in quite a bit slower. Tape-In was 5 seconds, Retrofit was 7.4 seconds, and Two-Tail Fox unfortunately was around 10 seconds, but keep in mind it's a rocket launcher and that reload speed is pretty terrible. Now when you start adding Void Weapon Surge mods, things get more interesting. With the activity Void Surge and just 1 surge mod, Leviathan's Breath 2 shots unstoppable champions, killing them in 3.4 seconds. Again, this is before the 10% health reduction went into effect. Tape-In and Two-Tail Fox stay pretty much the same, and Retrofit is actually the best competition here if you have target lock for that extra damage and 4 times the charm, cranking that time to kill for a stun champion to around 3.8 seconds, and actually faster if volatile rounds are active. Now there's some quick quirks to note regarding Leviathan's damage. First, Leviathan's Sight. The concussive blast on a full draw counts as base weapon damage, so anything that boosts your primary shot damage also boosts this as well. Second, this is separate from volatile explosions, which do not receive weapon-specific buffs like weapon surge mods or overcharges, though they do respond to activity surges. Third, this weapon's crit damage modifier is 1.6. A body shot on Carl does 33,442 versus a crit damage of 53,442. For max damage and Archer's tempo, you need to land your crits. Luckily, Leviathan's size damage doesn't scale based on the kind of hit. Whether it's body shot or crit shot, the damage is always the same. Now, arrows released after the fully drawn window ends do 12.5% less damage. And finally, this thing has anti-unstoppable champion capabilities, pretty much making it a one-stop shop when it comes to handling champs. Which brings us to our conclusion. At the end of the day, there's a lot of factors at play in the sandbox, and it changes pretty rapidly. Now, we even have a mid-season patch coming here soon. But what isn't changing right now is that this weapon is undeniably the meta. Catalyst improvements, new sandbox elements, damage that outclasses its competitors, anti-champion capabilities have all brought what was once a meme. And believe me, I have memed on this weapon, and many in the Destiny community have also memed on Leviathan's Breath. Now though, it seriously competes with the best of the best. Grandmaster Nightfalls are coming soon, guys. And believe me, every time we have Void Surge, I am going to be using Leviathan's Breath. Take advantage of these mods, guys. Utilize your artifact perks. And if you happen to be playing Hunter, you can go the extra mile and slap on OathKeepers for an even faster draw time. Well, fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching. And as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.